Hello everyone and welcome to Disasterpiece Publishing House. I'm Dev Solivay.
I am Cy Metz.
And this is a show about the good, bad, but mostly bad of weird internet literature.
Dramatic readings included. Yeah, we're finally nailing it.
Right
and by
on.
that I mean I'm finally doing my part and actually trying to remember.
Nice. All right, well, today I have two pieces I've brought to the table with sort of a theme. They're both short ones, and they're wildly different subject matters, but they have the same exact plot twist. So I am ready to jump into the first one.
I can almost guarantee you that we're going to read the first one in its entirety, and then we're going to read the second one, and I still won't see the plot twist coming the second time around. I'm making that prediction now.
Fair enough. So this is a piece, it starts off as kind of a weird sort of political science fiction type thing. It was published in 2011, I believe. So it kind of fits with the politics of the time, that Angela Merkel is the Chancellor of Germany, so on and so forth. So you'll see some faces that were prevalent back then, but not so much now, 13 years later. The plot twist of this fic is so wild that it became a meme. If you figure it out before it comes, don't say anything. But just...
That goes for you, too, the audience. Keep it to yourself.
Exactly, so...
No one on the bus needs to know that you guessed that Knuckles is going to give birth through his knuckles. And they will look at you weird if you do say that.
All right, so we have...
I'm just assuming it's Sonic for some reason.
I mean, you find a lot of weird Sonic stuff, but... Let's see. So this is called the Immortality Protocol, and it's by a user called Sci-Fox. It was published on March 4th, 2011. It takes place on March 31st, 2010. So I guess...
Clearly such a wide gap in time that if you were to read it in 2011 thinking it was taking place in modern day, it would completely fuck you up.
Exactly. So here we go. This is the Immortality Protocol. United Nations Security Council chambers.
I think you said Angela Merkel and United Nations. I think I know what the twist of this is already.
Okay. Well, we'll see. So, United Nations Security Council chambers, Wednesday, March 31st, 2010. An emergency session was announced earlier in the day. By good fortune, most of the Security Council was still lingering in the U.S. after deciding on Resolution 1917, which happened 9 days ago. Holding the attention of the floor was a thin and balding African-American who was wearing a light blue turtleneck and khaki chinos. He was Dr. Nathan Morgan, a member of the European Center for Nuclear Research, or CERN, and also a well-respected physics researcher from Berkeley. He stood at the lectern that was set up in the center of the chambers, at the head of a table that was occupied by several key Security Council officials. There was, of course, the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Sitting at his right was Susan Rice, the American ambassador to the United Nations. At his left was Sir Mark Lytle Grant, Rice's equivalent from the UK. At Grant's left, as a standard gesture to the Anglo-Franco relationship, was Gerard O'Rourke. I'm not going to read through all of this shit because it's a million different names, but suffice it to say there's UK Prime Minister David Cameron, Angela Merkel, Dmitry Medvedev, Barack Obama, so on and so forth.
Who begat Ezekiel, who begat Isaiah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's literally what it is. Like, I know the format is usually to read the thing in its entirety, but trust me, this is boring. So, looking at each familiar face made Morgan more nervous than when he had initially come in. Feeling everyone's gaze on him, he took a sip of water from a glass on his lectern, scratched at his head, and began to speak. Yesterday, as you all know, the Large Hadron Collider began its beam collisions at 1:06 p.m. Central European Summer Time. In the public eye, it was an event of little consequence. However, it had all of us at CERN and the scientific community at large apprehensive, but also excited. He took a moment to scan the chambers before continuing. The media likes to make people think that we're going to cause the world to disappear into a black hole. For the most part, that theory is largely bunk. However... Morgan wiped his forehead with a sleeve. An unexpected event did happen during the first collision. What kind of event, Dr. Morgan? Rice interjected.
Song's gonna show. I shouldn't...
No, don't spoil it. The collider had opened up a fissure in the ground within the ring. It was completely hollowed out, but what we saw within it was even more incredible than the presence of the fissure itself. I feel like you've already gotten it. But I'm going to continue.
Did I spoil the way that you asked me
Not
explicitly
necessarily. No.
Okay.
No.
So it's a twist within it. Okay.
What was within the fissure, Dr. Morgan? Rice asked. Space, Ambassador Rice. Space. Rice maintained perfect control of her tone, while the rest of the Security Council seemed to deflate like a bicycle tire in surprise. Intriguing. Understatement of the century, Susan. Obama leaned forward and rested his elbows on the table, linking his fingers together.
Let me be clear.
Was it populated space, Nathan? From a visual inspection, we could see at least one planet which appears to be Earth-like in its composition. You must understand, sir, we could only see with our naked eyes. We didn't dare leave the ring for safety reasons. We didn't know how this fissure operates. It could have simply been a window that couldn't be breached. Worst case scenario was that it really was a breach. Obama seemed to take the news as if it were just another day in the office. What's the current status of this anomaly? Gone. The collider has been completely shut down under the guise of maintenance, sir. We all agreed that it was a good idea to leave such an anomaly in place without knowing how exactly it was created, or if it could even be controlled. Do you have any theories, at least? There is one, but it's very thin. Try me, Obama thinly smiled. Morgan had the feeling that the president's eyes were boring through his skull. He had the complete attention of one of the most powerful people on the planet, and it made Nathan's hands sweat. We were testing several artifacts that were seconded to the U.S.
Fucking Chad Obama over here.
I know. To us by the U.S. Air Force. We were told that their presence at CERN was to be considered classified along with their origin. Obama chuckled. You mean the Chaos Emeralds?
Oh my god, it's this one!
Yep.
Yes! Yes! Let's go! Yes!
Okay, to describe for the listeners, Sai is, jumped up from his seat and is jumping around and dancing around the room. We'll pause for a second here to explain this one. So,
oh my god, how did I not see this coming?
I was trying not to, endorse, because you were saying Sonic, and I was trying not to, So, this line here, let me go into the history. Obama chuckled. You mean the Chaos Emeralds. A wonderful, beautiful line of fanfiction. This became a meme when it was first posted to a Twitter account called Fanfiction, something or other, bad fanfiction, something like that. And they posted the line. It took off, went viral on Twitter. And this was possibly almost 10 years ago. Because it became such a phenomenon, people started making memes about it. And so you saw memes of Obama being surrounded by the Chaos Emeralds flying around him. And later, when Trump began his campaign, people started making the Chaos Emeralds surrounding Trump as well. So it became kind of a weird phenomenon.
My god, I'm only now starting to realize this. We wouldn't have Dark Brandon memes today if it weren't for Obama Chaos Emerald.
Exactly, yeah.
Man. It really makes you think how much of the subtleties of ancient cultures are lost just by them not having forums.
Yeah.
We'd find out that there was some weird meme about Julius Caesar eating anchovies all the time or something that we just don't know because there's no record of the way those types of jokes would be circulated.
Some of those have lived on, though. Especially if you see Roman graffiti, there's that one that, you know, people still talk about. Today, April, whatever, I made bread,
Yeah.
Things that people have been shit posting for millennia. But this one, I think is fascinating. I wonder if the author of this fic, which admittedly, without that line, it's a pretty bad fic. I wonder if this person knows exactly how much they have influenced culture just with this one incredible line. So, I mean, let's go ahead and continue. We'll see what happens. Obama has some interesting stuff to say about his predecessor, George Bush.
I just want to say, the funny thing about this to me is how you can already feel, the dripping, the neo-lib, worshipping of Obama. He is a commanding, powerful presence, and his mannerisms are described almost of that of a trickster god.
Yeah, well, and I mean, both of us will more or less recall when Obama was elected. We were so used to George Bush and his idiocy that people really thought Obama was going to change everything, like those hope posters and everything like that. People really did feel like things were going to finally get better, and they didn't. And that's
because he was just the president. You know, he was just a Democratic president.
He was just another neoliberal, and so it's interesting to see. You know, in 2011, it's still kind of in the midst of that. He's, you know, it's towards the end of his first term, and people are still not quite disillusioned with him just yet.
Yeah. He's still riding the high of being able to pin a lot of his administration not getting anything done to Republican obstructionism. And we're like, that sounds like him, all right. We'll take your word for it, bud. Well, let me be clear. You will not be getting healthcare.
Pretty much, yeah. All right, let's jump into the last bit of this. So our next line is from Nathan. May I assume that the subject is now no longer classified, sir? In the interest of science and my own curiosity, you certainly may. Obama looked over at the Secretary General. Mr. Secretary, I have a very interesting story to share with you all if I may address the council. I'm sure a lot of you have wanted to hear it. The elderly South Korean nodded. President Obama stood up in his seat and crossed around the table to stand behind Morgan. My little story begins at Roswell in 1947.
As most good stories do.
Amusing, Medvedev murmured. Obama fixed his gaze on the Russian president briefly. Oh, he's Russian. Okay. The official story has been that we recovered debris from an experimental aircraft. That kicked off the UFO craze, and people have been trying to find out the truth about whatever we found ever since. I can't do a good impression of Obama, so I'm not really trying. The truth is, we didn't find the remains of a UFO, but the objects in question were extraterrestrial. 7 perfectly cut diamonds of various colors.
Yes!
So, Roswell, the secret of Roswell is the Chaos Emeralds. Love it.
Yes! I knew it!
He made a fist and held it in the air. About this size. We called them Chaos Emeralds because ever since we found them, there were UFO sightings all over. Sightings that had no basis. Your military, however, said that these UFOs did not exist, David Cameron interjected. Yet now you've sprung upon us the fact that you've found space diamonds. I'd say that they have a lot of basis now. Obama chuckled again. I'm speaking the plain and honest truth, David. We found nothing physical in the air, but there was something. The Air Force figured that they were optical illusions being created by these gems. They were originally called emeralds, by the way, because they were green when they were found. And the military was picking at them ever since. Morgan cocked his head. They exhausted their capabilities for research, didn't they? And their budget. I'm sorry to say that my predecessor's squandering of Mr. Clinton's surplus in the Middle East was the main cause of that. Obama replied coolly. That was the discourse in 2011, wasn't it?
There's a bunch of racists saying the N-word, and then a bunch of 60-year-old white people with square-frame glasses and a decent job going, oh, well, but Bush, though.
Yeah,
but Bush, though.
This is when, I think, with Obama is when discourse started to get divided, because aside from the advent of the internet and misinformation, there was also the fact that, like, it came more out in the open exactly what these kind of Republicans were really doing, right?
Yeah.
Because it became clear, especially after 9/11, things just kind of went downhill from there. And it's interesting to see at what point during that timeline this fic is occurring.
Yeah.
You know? It's interesting.
It's right in the, it's in the same vein as, well, we can just logically argue against creationism and that'll show those Christians.
I know.
And it's that same sort of, like, immaturity I feel we grew out of, that a lot of people from previous generations haven't. You had this idea that everybody is operating more or less on your side genuinely.
Yeah.
But everyone else isn't.
Yeah.
You've just decided to stick with the one team that got it right. And there's no, there's a sort of, like, there really was, like, this sort of dogma that came with being progressive at the time that didn't actually make you very progressive. And not only did it, like, make it easy for you to go, like, well, I'm ranting on Republicans, and that's all I have to do. Yeah. It also, like, reinforced your own worldview in a way that didn't really actually let progressive ideas in, right?
Yeah, because what happened, like, and we see a little bit of that, you know, here, but there was, after George Bush, people kind of associated Republicans with rednecks, and then, like, they therefore associated, like, progressives as being intelligent people, and so you get this classism divide.
This unbelievable classism that...
Yeah, and that only contributed to the division, because, like, if you're, you know, a Republican person who's living out in the boonies and you're poor and everybody around you is poor, you don't want to listen to some rich guy from San Francisco lecturing you about white supremacy. And it's not because what they're saying is wrong. It's because you're tired of having to deal with rich folks controlling your life.
And that's why we've seen the scapegoat shift in the right wing. You know, we're talking about these groups of people who have been left behind by these politics, right? Yeah. We're not condoning or endorsing any particular party, merely observing that there are people whose lives were being, and still are, being thrown around like they were confetti. And they can't play that game anymore. All of the top running Republicans these days are rich fucking pricks. Yeah. So now they had to shift into like, all right, cool, then fuck the poor. We actually don't care about the poor. We're going to grind their bones into dust, and you are going to get to snort that bone dust. Yeah. And that bone dust is going to make you rich. And that's how we're going to run America.
Yeah, it's interesting how, like, I mean, there always sort of has been a class war, but it has its origins all the way back. You know?
Yeah, it was so disingenuous because I will say progressives... When I say progressives, I mean people with progressive ideas. I don't mean Democrats, right? Yeah. Progressives at the time were talking about class war and using those words, talking about it in terms of we gotta see things through the lens of class. And the Dems were listening, but the way that, like, a parent listens and nods while their kid is talking about Pokemon.
Yeah, they're patronizing.
And then the Republicans got to, rather than actually engage with any of those ideas, just rant about how hypocritical it was that the Democrats were listening and not doing anything about it.
All right, well, I mean, I can jump back into this. We've only got, like, a couple more paragraphs, but
this show is just, like, you know how everyone jokes that every Lindsay Ellis video is secretly about 9/11? Like, this is just gonna be, like, our show is just accidentally all about, like, the particular politics of when we went to high school that we're still fucking dealing with now.
Yeah, well, I mean...
We can't even read a silly fucking...
We're still dealing with politics from Reagan. Like, we're still dealing with the... Yeah, a lot of these pieces have sort of been by accident from that time period. Yeah. So I think that's kind of why that's happening. But, I mean, basically, you know, from here, it just kind of explains Roswell. Morgan swore lightly under his breath, shaking his head. The man was scouring for oil while he had the key to infinite power locked away in Nevada. He's talking about Bush here, which... Excellent.
Well, Bush is so evil he would sit on infinite magical renewable energy. But
well, because if it's renewable, then he can't profit from it, right?
Yeah. So that is true, but it's framed in such a disingenuous way. Mm-hmm. Hey, Obama, you're president now. Why aren't you doing it? Why isn't it like, yeah, we could have done something about it, but Bush, right? It's like, you have him though.
Yeah.
Now. Why aren't you doing anything with it?
Well, I think he answers that question.
Okay.
He said, Obama patted Morgan's shoulder. I'm glad I made the right decision to send them to CERN. This has to be the most monumental scientific discovery since the bomb. Morgan could see that Obama was getting visibly excited, with his smile widening. He made a fist and smacked it into the open palm of his other hand. Do you understand what this means? This is a major opportunity for multi-discipline investment. It could trigger a global economic stimulus. That was it. That was the real source of the stimulus that he did, was the Chaos Emeralds. You can quote me on that. The Russian ambassador harshly laughed. And there we get the capital in order to make these investments. In fact, how do you plan to fit this into the budget? Your Republican opposition says your administration is overspending as it is. I intend to meet with several reputable investors in order to provoke interest in investment. In fact, Obama looked over at one of the interns that accompanied him. Blaine, please see to it that the following people are brought to the White House by the time I get back to Washington. The intern The intern pulled out his BlackBerry smartphone and brought up a note application. I'm ready when you are, sir. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, John Carmack, Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Eric Schmidt, and of course, Mr. Buffett.
Mr. Buffett.
I know he's talking about Warren Buffett, but I would love if he was talking about Jimmy Buffett. Yeah.
Jimmy Buffett's just like, all right, we're going to use this to save the ocean, right?
Yeah.
I'm putting my fucking money where my mouth is.
Yeah. Obama flashed the intern his news conference smile. But let's phase this in slowly. We'll start declassifying the military records and research, make it accessible to the public. Obama looked over at Morgan. As for you, I'm going to put you in charge of a special advisory council. He lowered his voice. If I can secure the funding, we'll see about reproducing this anomaly in a safe zone. With all due respect, sir, Morgan leaned in close to the president's ear, the only safe place would most likely be in space. Obama shrugged. Let it be space, Nate. And that is the end of Obama Chaos Emeralds. Also known as the Immortality Protocol.
The funniest thing about this is nothing happens.
Nope.
Nothing happens.
It's without that twist, it's just a really boring political sci-fi.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, this, whoever wrote this, they must have loved the Star Wars prequels. So they're like, fuck this lightsaber shit. You know, Sonic and Eggman are fighting off somewhere, but we gotta get to the real nitty-gritty. The economic implications of Chaos Emeralds.
I think we already did the discussion kind of in the middle of that, really.
Yeah, so I think it's a good time to take a break before we move on to the next thing.
All right, let us take a break. All right, and we're back. How are you feeling?
I am feeling pretty good.
All right, so this one I pulled, again, it's got the same kind of plot twist, but I wanted you to read it because it is a 50 Shades of Grey fan fiction. Some content warnings on this one. Smut.
Hello, it's me, the ghost of Gilbert Gottfried. I heard that you were gonna read some 50 Shades of Grey.
Bud, that is too loud even for me.
Yeah, Gilbert, can we get you to go, please? No problem! I'm gonna go back to being dead.
Alright, so this is 50 Shades of Grey fan fiction, content warning, smut. There's also some, this fic was written with the intent to call out how abusive 50 Shades of Grey is, and they do it in a very interesting way. So there is some implied emotional abuse. It's told from Anastasia's perspective, but it's not shown. It's not shown or described. I am just going to put that content warning out there as well. So, I mean, if you're ready, we can go ahead and jump in.
The sky is gray like everything else in Anastasia's life. The buildings are gray, her home is gray, her skin is gray, and sometimes she thinks that her hair is gray. She has aged so much in so little time, she's certain that he's killing her. When it's dark and she can't sleep, she finds herself wondering if he's a vampire, sucking all the happiness from her body. On days like these ones, when she's able to sneak out like a teenager, she goes for tea. It's not conventional, not classically American, but she likes it. When she was young, her father would prepare some while they watched the latest All-American soccer game. Ah, I like the new blue jerseys, he said once. Young Anastasia peered at the screen. Me too. They're far prettier than the old gray ones. They look like gems, she responded, clutching her mug of tea tight. Gems indeed. Blue is a very trustworthy color, Anna. Yeah, she said, smiling at the screen. It's my favorite color. Anastasia approached the cashier. She bit her lip and placed her order. What? Said the cashier. Anna sighed. She repeated herself. Oh, would you like, a muffin with that? The muffins were $12. 3. 10 minutes passed before Anna saw her muffins. They were gray, from the berries to the body to the sprinkle of toasted sugar on top. She blinked, hoping she had seen it wrong. She hadn't. It was as gray could be. 50 Shades of Grey, she whispered, squeezing her eyes shut. 50 Shades of Grey. Always. The cashier cleared their throat. Ma'am, I don't mean to interrupt an intimate moment, but you're kind of holding up the line. I know this isn't a busy shop, but we still get business, and I don't want to be fired. Anna grabbed her plate of gray muffins, her cup of tea, and backed away from the counter, hurrying for a table. There were only a few in this little place, and it took plenty of effort and a fast mile to claim one before it was taken. Anna managed by the skin of her teeth. She placed the muffin plate delicately at the edge of the table and set her tea opposite. Anna pulled her BlackBerry out of her pocket. It buzzed impatiently in her hand, flashing a message from her husband, the one and only Christian Grey. Where are you? Anna set her phone aside, freeing her hands to rake her fingers through her hair. Christian had lost his charm recently. He was not as handsome or alluring as he had been when they'd met. He was cold, distant even, when he tried not to be. He was not willing to discuss their relationship, and he hadn't the skill in bed to make up for it.
Like that, this
Whoa.
just an excellent.
Whoa.
That line is excellent because, like, the whole thing with 50 Shades, the whole thing is that it's smut, and like the fact that things have gone on, and he's not even good at it, is fucking incredible. Like, I love that so much.
His gray penis could no longer satisfy her gray beef curtain.
Did you just say beef curtain?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said
No.
beef curtain.
That's fucking funny as hell, my dude.
Content warning! Beef curtain mentioned. His redeeming qualities were null. It hurt her to think that she had been wrong in marrying him. At least there was tea, thought Anna as she took a long sip. At least this tea is warm and homey. Yes, she thought. Tea shall be my secret love affair. She almost scoffed at the hopelessness of that one. People chattered in her peripheral. About what, she could not hear, but they sounded happy. It's, trying to read this is like tripping over, like, bumpy cobblestones. It's every so often there's just, like, a step that is just a little...
I mean, this was
Little off
written,
kilter,
This
yeah.
was written by a group chat, but
Really?
yep.
Oh, that's amazing.
We'll get
Okay.
into that in a moment.
Oh, hell yeah. Never mind then, no notes. Their voices blended into a pleasant buzz. Or it would have been pleasant hadn't Anastasia been so entrenched in her sulking that she chased her appetite away. The bell above the door rang delicately, shaking Anna out of her stupor. Confused and saddened, she gazed down at her gray muffins. Frowning deeply, her tea was still hot, the cup half empty, and the muffins had not even been touched, and yet she could not bring herself to finish any of it. The very thought made her stomach clench. Anna picked up the plate and the cup and headed for the door, eyes fixed on the window. A bike passed. She recalled Christian's arms around her, yanking her from the path of another incoming bicycle. Anna would not have survived without his interference. Bikes, she learned, were incredibly deadly. Oh my god, we're about to get to the twist, aren't we? Because you're
I just
giggling.
think it's funny that she thinks bikes are deadly. That's all. But
Yeah. You know that one time that our friend got hit by a bike and immediately evaporated into mist?
well,
They're fucking deadly, dude.
I'm pretty sure it's a callback because it's probably a callback to Twilight. In Twilight, one of the things, the interactions between Bella and Edward is that Edward saves her from a bus. So I'm assuming Christian saving her from a bike is somehow a callback to that, but it's just like a really lame one compared to what actually happens in Twilight.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, here's the thing. I have problems with Twilight. I'm not going to be the one who, like, shits on Twilight because it's funny to do so. I don't think it is funny to do so. However, I do have, like, a lot of issues with it, but I do think in terms of talking about toxic, abusive relationships, Twilight is still a step above 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, yeah.
I think, both of them are, like, to me...
It's also, like, a well-documented fact that E.L. James is a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, no, she's...
And has really, really bad soul qualities, let's say.
Yeah, I feel like Stephanie Meyer also took her criticism a lot better, and she was dragged through the dirt.
Yeah, she took her lumps in some very unfair ways, but I think she also responded, I don't want to say great because I don't know for a fact, but just compared to the way that E.L. James responded to criticism.
Yeah, no, I would say definitely a step above.
Her memories had such a hold on her that she nearly relived them. Tea exploded all over Anna's front, staining her shirt from silver to brown. It was the first shade of non-gray she had seen in what felt like years. "Hot shit!" exclaimed an unfamiliar voice. Anna's eyes flitted from the window to her unsuspecting victim. She was floored. "I was right! It was the exact same plot twist, and I forgot it was coming! Goddamn motherfucking shit, motherfucker!"
Read it.
He was shorter than any grown man she had ever met, but his hair spikes more than made up for it. They were blue, stiff, and stuck directly out of the back of his rather large head. Almost all of him was blue, actually. Deep and rich like the sky between dusk and night. What parts of him weren't blue were slightly darker than Anna's flesh. Except for his eyes. Oh, his eyes. Anna had never seen such gorgeous eyes. They were green, but not just green. Emerald. Smaragdine. Even in the foggy Seattle light, they glimmered with a certain mischief, and behind it a kindness she had not seen in so long.
I need to jump in to talk about how genius this fic is, because... Hear me out here. So, first of all, at the beginning, they very much foreshadowed to it when she was talking about, like...
Blue is her favorite color.
Blue is her favorite, the trustworthy color. Better than those old gray jerseys, is one of the things she said. So,
I hate this.
let me get into, now that we've reached the twist, let me get into the reason why this was written. Because, again, they're calling out how abusive the relationship between Christian and Anastasia is in a very unique way, which is to say, she's having an affair with Sonic the Hedgehog now.
The ideal man. Sonic the Hedgehog is her Ned Flanders in this situation.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is the first in a series, too, that gets increasingly more and more smutty as time goes on. And this whole concept, it came from somebody's group chat. It's up in the notes somewhere. For whoever wrote this, but it all just started when they shot the shit in their group chat, and they're like, what if you shipped Anastasia with Sonic the Hedgehog? It'd probably be better than whatever shit she's dealing with now. And so that was the genesis of this, and it got... Because there's not a lot of fanfiction in the 50 Shades of Grey tag on AO3. This got so popular that it has its own category on AO3. If you look at the 50 Shades of Grey fandom and look through the relationships, Anastasia Steele and Sonic the Hedgehog is its own category.
If they don't call this ship Blue Steel, I am going to shit my stomach out.
I think they actually call it Sonicstasia. So get ready.
Y'all are disappointing.
Yeah.
Anna Sonic rolls off the tongue way better if that's the angle you're taking.
Honestly, I like Blue Steel. I think
yeah,
that's
we're calling this Blue Steel.
Yeah, we're calling this episode Blue Steel.
We're calling this episode is Blue Steel. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we released this episode normally, but the follow-ups, as we are going to have to follow up, I feel, we will bring out at Sonic Week.
Yeah. The follow-ups, I was thinking, so here's the thing. The series that this sparked is, I think there's about 7 pieces in it. And they are all very, very smutty. So here's what I'm gonna do. We reach 100 subscribers on whatever, and we'll have this as the reward, or rather releasing this as the reward. In the meantime, we'll make it Patreon exclusive. So if you want the smut, if you want the heavy, hot sex that these two have, subscribe to me on Patreon.
And if you want to hear a version of it recorded with me doing with the ghost of Gilbert Gottfried coming by to read it.
We'll do that too, yeah.
We'll do that as a punishment if you don't do it fast enough.
Yeah, and to give you an idea of how wild this is, they do it in the DashCon ball pit. She sticks a dildo in Sonic's ass. Like, it gets fucking whack.
Spoilers.
Yeah, Christian Grey loves being cucked too. Like, it's just the hottest love affair you've ever heard of. So subscribe on Patreon, we'll do it. But we gotta get enough of an audience first. All right, continuing. Where were we?
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean... She began. It's all right. I was going fast. I have a tendency to do that, said the over-large hedgehog. He looked up at Anna, big head cocked to the side. Anna bit her lip. What else does he have that's big? Fast, huh? Fast is good, she said innocently. The hedgehog blinked, his big green eyes narrowing a hint. Fast is good, Yeah. Were you gonna throw away those muffins? He asked. Anna averted her gaze. Yes, she admitted sheepishly. I lost my appetite. I went to throw it away and then I drenched us both in tea. Now we're talking. Now we're talking indeed, ma'am. A grin split the side of his muzzle. My name is Sonic. Would you like to share those muffins with me, miss? Anastasia, she answered, almost too eagerly. Sonic chuckled, running a gloved hand over his spikes. Pretty name. I can almost see the gold rings popping out of you, Miss Anastasia, Sonic said smoothly. His eyes
I don't
softened
even
with
know what that means. Like...
I can tell that you get hit by your husband.
That's not in the piece, by the way. That's editorializing.
Trigger warning, implied domestic abuse.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but thank you, Mr. Sonic.
Me too, girl. Me too.
It's like someone in the chat wrote that first, and then the next person who they passed the talking feather to is like, what the fuck was that, bro? I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely a bit of dialogue that they came up with. I don't know that they wrote this entire thing, but definitely I feel like the reason it feels disjointed is because a lot of them were jumping in like, oh, what if Sonic said this? And what if Anastasia was all hot for him when he said that? And what if this, that, and the other? So
what if Sonic bit his lip and had a giant fucking cock? What if he fucked fast but was still slow to come?
I know. I just think it's funny how, like, she meets this hedgehog and her first thought is, does he have a fat cock? Like, does he,
Look, if you saw Sonic the Hedgehog and you were like, had it confirmed that Sonic was real, you already know a lot about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Well,
my mind would wander to cock, but I mean, that's, I've got a different perspective on life.
If there really was a giant hedgehog that was blue in existence, Sonic doesn't wear pants. He's walking around with his whole cock out, so you don't have to
I imagine
wonder
it's a
about
Shape
that.
of Water situation. Her plate of muffins did not look so gray now. The blueberries were blue. The wrapper was blue. I was sitting over here, blue. I was sitting over there, if you'd like to join me. I don't have anywhere to be. Nowhere? Sonic's spikes twitched. Nowhere. I took the day off work. Christian will know soon enough. I should have fun before he does. I deserve this. I deserve to have fun. She thought, unable to speak because her mouth was already full of hedgehog balls.
No, not yet.
Not yet. I should have known it was Sonic going in. You warned me. And I still wasn't physically or emotionally prepared for this. Anna led Sonic to her table, where he had hopped into a chair and settled to peel a wrapper from one of the muffins. Anna blinked, and the muffin was gone. Crumbs clung to Sonic's plump lips. He dragged his tongue over them, eyes locked with Anna's.
Yeah, eat her muffins.
Heat coiled within her.
You having fun reading this? See, this, I'm really glad I got you to read this because you do the best Sonic voice. Like, I can't do a Sonic voice, but you can.
So, where do you work? Asked Sonic. I'm not going to try and do sexy Sonic. I'm doing the, rat, the entire time. That makes it better. A publishing firm, Anna answered. She pressed her thighs together. No kidding, Sonic laughed, kindly. A cozy warmth blossomed in Anna's stomach. It was a feeling she had never known before, not with anyone, and especially not with Christian Grey. Something about Sonic was intriguing in a way her husband never could be, and it had nothing to do with the fact that Sonic was a big blue hedgehog. They chatted over muffins. The air, friendly. They reeked of tea, sure. Anna knew she would have to really scrub to get the scent out. Not to mention Sonic's fur, but she couldn't bring herself to mind. He was absolutely captivating. From the top of his spiky head to the tips of his expensive red shoes. Time had never moved faster. Over 3 hours passed without their noticing. When she finally did, it was with a start. Oh, Sonic! Holy hell, it's been 3 hours! She stated obviously. Sonic twisted in his seat to see the clock. When he turned back, his eyes were wide. Time really does fly! Listen!
Anastasia, would you like to come with me back to my place? I could get us there really fast, and I'll probably make it worth these 3 hours. Hope lightened Sonic's beautiful eyes to the shade of spring leaves. In spite of everything, her instincts told her Christian would be angry, people would find out, she might feel guilty. Anna couldn't bring herself to say no. Sonic, there is nothing I would love more. Maybe we can freshen up while we're there. Sonic grinned. 0 to 100. But this really is how it goes. Mm-hmm. Not 20 minutes later, Anna found herself wedged between a shower wall and a blue hedgehog. The walls shook with the force of his thrusts, but her legs shook harder. Anna had been in a relationship with a sexual deviant for months now, had even married him, and yet she had never had sex so raw and passionate before now. There was no pain, emotional or physical. Better even, she could actually feel his cock. She had been able to pick her teeth with Christian. Sonic left her begging for more. Fuck, Sonic! Fuck! Faster! Sonic laughed into her ear. His blue fur was slicked into his skin. His green eyes twinkled. Voice low, he uttered a phrase that would change Anna's life forever. Baby, fast is my specialty.
So there
Notes,
you go.
The kitty faced with the C to indicate deviousness.
Yeah. So that is our
fucking god.
That is our foray. Thoughts?
Oh my god. That was 0 to 100.
I know. I want to.
It started innocent enough, and it's like, and then they were fucking until they came.
Pretty much.
Okay.
I do love looking at the comments on this fic, because a lot of them is either like, I'm reporting you, or like, I want to die, but then some of them are like, you've changed my life, and it's all one or the other.
We really need to incorporate the comics on fanfiction into these episodes more.
Yeah. And to give you an idea of Sonic the Hedgehog, Anastasia Steele, the
13 works, huh?
Yeah, and the relationship, it's in that tag, so you have like other stuff. But
okay, let's read the tags for the additional tags, because I caught a glimpse of them. We've got pegging, Halloween, prequel, Australia, nipple play, mild smut, and coffee shops.
I want to find the one that was my foray into this, because it's a one paragraph one. I just want to read it. I found out about this from a friend who, we were talking in our Discord server, and they looked up what the 50 Shades of Grey fandom was like, and they found that Sonic and Anastasia was a tag, and I was like, oh, well, I have to see this. So the first fic I read was...
Is this called 50 Shades Cucked?
Yes, it is. This was I believe this was the first one that they posted, and it's just about a paragraph, so I'm just gonna pop off for you. So 50 Shades Cucked by an account called Sonicstasia. The summary: life comes at you fast, Christian Grey. So here it is. Christian Grey gets everything he wants at the snap of his finger. It hasn't been that way all his life, of course it hasn't, but that's the way it is now, and anything to stand between him and his goals ends up mangled in one form or another. For years, Anastasia Steele had been his goal. She's his. She's always going to be his. Or so he thinks. He arrives home that evening to an emptiness. Anastasia usually greets him. Where is she now? Where is she gone? Maybe she's not feeling well, he thinks. Christian is, after all, an absolute demon, and sometimes she's hurt in his own crossfire. He shrugs it off and heads upstairs. He will visit her in her bedroom. There's no way for Christian to prepare for what he sees when he opens that door. Sonic, balls deep in his wife. And that's the end. So that was the first...
balls deep in his wife.
Yeah.
Like the race of aliens from fucking the next generation that can only speak in metaphor and stories. Like, fucking Shaka when the walls fell. Yeah. Sonic, balls deep in his wife.
Yeah, that's just, I feel like that is one of the greatest conclusions to any fanfiction I've ever read, because this whole thing is like very indirect, and it's very from Christian Grey's perspective, so you think you're gonna get like his reaction, but instead you just get bam! Sonic, balls deep in his wife. And like, that's, You know, I think it's really that was a great introduction, and then from there, this account was kind of the outlet for the group chat that created this whole thing. So yeah, that's Sonic Stasia, and it keeps going. You know, they do all sorts of like wild, hot, sexy stuff with each other, and it's just it's incredible the journey that they go on. Unfortunately, this series wasn't finished, but there's like I want to say like 7 or 8 works in the series. It's wonderful.
I feel like our reading of this series can only end one way, with us finishing.
Yep.
What Sonic Stasia started.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's enough to read here. There's enough to make a series out of it. But again, it's going to be Patreon exclusive until we can get enough subscribers to release this. So please support the show.
This is a trial. This is the trial run of this.
Yeah, please support the show. That, having an audience makes it possible. We're both, we both have lives, we both work jobs, and it's stressful and it's hard to get all this done all at once. So, any support, we appreciate it. Any other discussion that you would like to do about this, my friend?
Well, I'm curious. It's always interesting to me, the balance that fan fictions that are crossovers have to maintain about, how much of these worlds are actually bleeding into each other? Does it become a fish out of water story? Does it become suddenly these two characters, and it's kind of implied that the two universes can kind of coexist? So I'm curious to see how much Sonic actually plays into this. Like, if we're going to see... And don't spoil.
No, of course
If
not.
we're going to see some fan favorites, like Big the Cat, perhaps. Maybe Anastasia has to help Sonic pay his rent. So he can stop Robotnik from purchasing her publishing company or something. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm down for either. Either of those things, honestly.
I think this can also be kind of... Because we do need to, at some point, address the fact that Sonic fan content is just...
so divorced from what the canon is.
It's also just incredibly cursed. Like, it's just... There's so much Sonic...
I would say up until, like... I would say, like, the last 5 years have had a renaissance of Sonic fandom in a non-cringe way.
Yeah, but until then, it's been one of the most terrifying fandoms, and a lot of just, like, the weirdest fan content comes out of it, to the point where Sonic fan content has kind of become a meme in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like, it's the reason you get things like Sonic Chew, Tails Gets Trolled, your Obama Chaos Emerald, you get things like this, Sonic High School.
And you know what? I'm going to say it here. It's because the internet came out and suddenly a bunch of autistic kids got to make some weird art about their hyperfixation.
Yeah, which, I mean, relatable, because that was me.
Yeah.
I do think...
So there's... But then you have the separate phenomena of the sort of irony culture that forms around any sort of enormous fandom like this.
Yeah, which is why you get just meme stuff about Sonic and about Harry Potter and about all sorts of other things. I do kind of, just as someone who my hyperfixation was Skyrim and Elder Scrolls, I do want to get into some of that content too, because that content can be just absolutely wild. And I mean, the canon content can be absolutely wild as well. It's one of the unique things about it. But yeah, video game fandom's such a gold mine of strange material.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays a lot of fandom content is literally like algorithm driven. There are trends in popularities where you just see people trying to like blend stuff because it's popular and because it'll get them clicks.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of earnestness to this era. And it still exists today, obviously. It's just harder to find. But there's an earnestness about this sort of era that we're dipping into between like 2010 to like 2018, I feel. Where it was just like the peak of like bizarre fandom content that treads the line between weird ironies, surreal, hipster shit that is enjoyable, and like the Poe's Law
effect happen. And now people are just so self-aware of the tropes and the ins and outs of things. It's impossible to fake it, and everyone's trying, and it's annoying.
I do think the one that people tend to forget about, the one that like a lot of weird fandom content came out of that was sort of at the beginning of this, was Super Hulock.
Yeah.
Because that was the first, like... I mean, there's always been sort of crossover fandoms, but I remember that being the first one that got close to mainstream.
Yeah. And it just happens to be because people on a particular popular social media site just happened to like a lot of similar things at the same time. And that happening, I think, was the first time corporations really started to look at that and go, like, we can make this happen.
Yeah, we can cultivate fans.
We can cultivate fans and get semi-unrelated fandom stuff to purposefully interbreed with one another.
Yeah.
And that's...
I feel like...
that particular type of toxicity is one that we're very familiar with swimming in.
So that's something we can definitely jump into later, but suffice it to say...
So, we're not trying to, like, paint any particular type of fandom or era of fan culture through rose-tinted lens.
Because the reality is every fandom is cringe.
Every fandom is cringe.
Fandom is cringe.
Fandom is inherently toxic. It's social dynamics about consuming a product.
It's interesting. I think we're kind of getting off topic, but
we're super getting off topic. Sorry. It's just...
Suffice it to say, Sonic content is a gold mine, and we are going to be digging for all of that gold.
All we were trying to do there is establish our cringe credentials. So, to differentiate ourselves from the other type of people who tend to talk about Sonic content, I guess.
Yeah, well, you doxed yourself in the first episode by saying you're a furry artist. I'll dox myself by saying I've run several Elder Scrolls RP accounts, so we've got cringe cred. Yeah. Like, we were into, like,
oh, dude,
when it was still running.
No, edit that out. No, I'm putting my foot down. We're not being public about it.
Okay.
Bleep that.
I will.
And we'll make it a fun little joke.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's been bleeped. It's a mystery. I
refuse to cover anything from that fandom on this fucking show.
You don't want to do it? Really?
No, you said it again.
Okay. Yeah. I'll cut this out, but, like, are you sure?
This is 50% a bit, 50% me kind of putting my foot down.
Okay, are you positive?
I do not want to let that devil in this house.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, I think that's about all I had to say. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, this rules. I can't wait to read more of it.
All right. So as always, our music was created by Aria. You can find her on Twitter at 2glitch. If you like the show, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment if you can. You can also subscribe to me on Patreon. The link is in the description, and we will see you on the next episode.
And remember, folks, don't shit where you read.
Excellent.